At this time of year, many of us are traveling. We're traveling for holidays. We're traveling for vacation. We're traveling to stay with family and friends. And it's often at this time of the year, as well as during the summer, that I get asked, is it worth me training when I'm away? I get asked this an awful lot, and I totally get it, and it makes a lot of sense. So, in this episode, I'm going to explain when it might be a good idea to train while you're on the road and what to do if it is. And I'll also mention when you might not worry about doing training while you're away. Hello, and welcome to the Be Right Back Separation Anxiety Podcast. Hi, I'm Julie Naismith, dog trainer, author, and full-on separation anxiety geek. I've helped thousands of dogs overcome separation anxiety with my books, my online programs, my trainer certification, and my separation anxiety training app. And this podcast is all about sharing my tips and tricks to help you teach your dog how to be happy at home alone too. First of all, though, let's talk about a concept of context and dogs and learning. Dogs, when they learn, take into account the context in which they learn. And it's a huge cue to dogs. Context sends a big message. And the biggest context in separation anxiety training is location. So the location that we do the training in sends a really clear message and sends lots of data to our dogs about being left. Okay, what do I mean by that? When we do home alone training in our house or in our apartment, your dog is learning that being left in that place is safe. Because that place, your apartment, your house, wherever, is the context in which you do the training. And it's telling your dog that, oh, when mum goes out and back through that door, right, when I'm here, that's safe. When you do the training, that is. Obviously, when we leave them for longer than they can cope with, it's not safe. But when you do the training, you're making everything super safe. So you go, you come back, your dog's in your home. And when your dog is at home, you do that training, the message starts to become, oh, okay, yeah, I can be okay. Got it. And it's a very, very salient cue to dogs. It sends a huge volume of data, location, because it is just so all-encompassing. It's just dominates over other cues. So location is massive when it comes to teaching dogs. Great examples of that you might have come across in other forms of dog training would be when you've been working with your dog on a sit, and they can sit in the kitchen, and they can sit in the living room when you ask them. But you take them to the dog park or you take them to your friend's house and you ask them to sit, and it's like they have never learned. It's like all those repetitions that you did have been completely forgotten. You see this with puppies all the time. And why? Because the context of location is so salient to your puppy or dog that when you change it, it's like you've just changed the whole thing. Karen Pryor talks about it in animal training. She talks about a different tank syndrome, and this related to training whales, I think it was, to do certain things in a certain part of a certain tank. Sounds kind of weird now, doesn't it, to think about a whale in a tank? But you kind of get where I'm coming from. But as soon as the whale was transferred to another tank, it was often the case that the learning was forgotten. And she called it different tank syndrome. So location is a different tank, your house and other places you might stay, different tanks. The learning can just disappear, and definitely with fear-based training. Well, the thing about dogs, actually all animals and the way they learn, is they do learn differently to us in one respect, very similar in many respects. But one of the things that they do differently is when they are trying to work out whether something is a threat, whether it's safe, whether it's dangerous, rather than looking at the whole entity, they look at changes to an entity. Now, let me give an example of this. And this comes from Temple Grandin, who's written lots of fabulous stuff, particularly around the welfare of animals that are used in farming and agriculture. But the example she gives is talking about a horse who was struggling with people, and in particular with a man who had a hat on. For the man without a hat, the horse was fine with. And the way she explains it is that to us, we look at that picture and see a man and a man with a hat, and we evaluate them as being similar. I mean, they're, 95% the same image to us. So we're not as scared. If we were scared of men with hats, or if we were scared of men, then we probably wouldn't be that much more scared by a man with a hat. However, animals don't do that. They take an approach which is, that bit is different. So therefore, those two things are fundamentally different. So the man without a hat, the man with a hat, as far as the horse goes, could be as different as a tractor and a giraffe. Because just adding the hat completely transformed the picture. And to us, it wouldn't, but to animals, it does. And so when you think about the man with a hat analogy, and you then start to think about training locations with dogs, you can start to see that location really does matter, particularly when the dog is trying to make sense of, is this one okay? Is this safe? Is it not okay? And you'll know if you've been doing separation anxiety training for a while that other contexts really affect training too. And the big ones are who does the training. If you've got other people in your household and they've got involved in the training, you might have noticed that when one of you trains, your dog does better than when two of you train, or the other one of you trains, or any combination of those, because all dogs seem to see that picture as different. When you train, that can have a massive impact. Some dogs are fine with being trained in the evening. Some dogs hate it. Some dogs prefer the morning. It's all very dog dependent. Day of the week, that's another big factor. The weather. There are many, many contexts which change how a dog feels about home alone training. So you probably notice that with your own dog. And so location is one of those, and it's a massive factor in all of that. Dogs are really, really bad at generalizing confidence from one location to another, from one context to another, but they're really good at generalizing fear. So you can take a dog who is scared of being home alone and take it somewhere else, and he's probably going to be scared of being left in a new location. But if your dog is developing home alone confidence, the chances are he's not going to take that confidence on the road with him. So if you want your dog to be okay with being somewhere else, you have to work on your dog being okay somewhere else. It's as simple and as maddening as that, but it's just the way their brains work. And what does this mean for your travels and you thinking about whether you should do any training when you're away? Well, there are times when it's going to make sense to train and times when it's not. So here's what I advise. If you are visiting family or friends and it's somewhere you're going to go to regularly, say you visit your parents every weekend and it's consistent and you're there a lot, then it starts to make sense to think about doing the training because there's consistency, there's permanence, it's the same place. It might not be somewhere that you are full time with your dog, but you're spending a lot of time there. So the permanence makes sense. And it's not going to be a different place in 3 months' time. So you're going to be able to do the training for as long as you need. That's when I say it makes sense. Oh, and the other thing to overlay on that is to say, when I'm there, do I need to be able to leave my dog? So we've got opportunity, which is it's going to be a place that you're going to go to regularly and it's permanent. And then there's need. What's the motivation? Do you need to do it? Do you need to have your dog be okay with being left in that new location? And if those two come together, then I would say it does make sense. It's going to be work, but it's doable. Other examples that I've come across with clients that I've worked with would be where somebody's other half doesn't live with them and they might be spending time in the other half's apartment or home. Again, that's a really good example of where training somewhere else makes a lot of sense. When should you not do this? When should you skip training in a strange location? I would say absolutely don't worry about it. Don't think about it if you're thinking you'd like to get your dog comfortable with a hotel so that you can travel with your dog, but still go out to dinner. Even though you might go to a hotel, the same hotel a couple of times, the chances are you're not going to go to a hotel over and over again. And just because to us, the notion of being in a hotel room is kind of similar. I mean, every hotel room's different. Every hotel room in a hotel might be different, but it's still a hotel room and it still has the same kind of stuff going on. And it's being in a hotel room in one hotel is more similar to being in a hotel room in another hotel than it is to being at home, if you see what I mean. So to us, they're not, two hotel rooms are similar experiences in the scheme of things, but to your dog, hugely different. So you will really be pushing water uphill if you try to get your dog to be comfortable with being left in a strange hotel room. Lots of dogs who don't have separation anxiety struggle with that. So I would say skip that bit. Also, skip it if you're thinking, I would love it if when we go away in the summer, we could, book a place, a holiday rental, a vacation place, and my dog would be okay for a couple of hours while we go out and we go for a swim or we go for dinner. Again, same issue. It's a new place, and dogs with separation anxiety really struggle with new places. Now, if you have a vacation rental, or if you're lucky enough to have a holiday home or a vacation home that you go to regularly, then that's going to be an ideal situation in which to get your dog comfortable with that place because it's permanent. Equally, if you've got a camper or a trailer or something like that, where you go to regularly, it's going to be around for long enough that you can train, that could also make sense. But strange hotels, strange vacation rentals, I wouldn't even think about it. But if you do decide you've got this place that you're going to visit, and parents' home, other half's apartment, whatever it might be, what could the training look like? When you get there, when you first start to do the training in the new location, just start with some super easy door as a ball. Simple as that. Just test it out. Just see how your dog responds. Your dog might be as bad as your dog first was when you trained in your own home, or they might be a bit better. They might even be a bit worse. So have zero expectations about how it might be and just see. Be really gentle, be really cautious. Just see how your dog responds to some simple, easy door as a ball training. Now, if you progress through the door as a ball training, then you can think about moving on to departure training. Departure training, where you're going to go out of the door for a small amount of time, repeatedly, gradually increasing the time that you're out and going at your dog's pace. Things to bear in mind when you're doing this training, everybody else. So when you're visiting people, chances are there's other people in the house. Are you going to get them to go out so you can train? Are they going to do the training with you? They could do the training with you. They could do the training instead of you. That can work too. If you're going to stay somewhere, again, that's pretty permanent, that has the same people around in that place, then they can definitely get involved in the training. But, going to stay at somebody's house and then saying to them, could you please go out so I can do my separation anxiety training, isn't always going to go down that well. So you can do training when people are still around. It's not the same, but it's better than doing nothing if your goal is to do training in a new location. Overall, though, you're on vacation, you are on holiday. So I would just say, don't overdo it. I do often see people having a goal of, when I go to this place, when I visit my family, when I see my other half, I do want to do lots of training. And I see people getting really overwhelmed because then when they're there, particularly when it's family time, when people are getting together for holidays, for celebrations, for Christmas, and yet you're thinking about doing separation anxiety training, the chances are you probably won't do as much as you thought you were going to do. And then you're just going to feel bad that you didn't achieve your goal. So I would say don't overdo it. Don't worry either that your dog's going to forget about separation anxiety training. If you're away for a short amount of time, your dog probably won't. And if you are worried, then do some training. Keep it super easy, door as a ball. I would just say don't pile on the pressure. You're visiting people for a reason. You're going there to enjoy time with them. So take the pressure off everyone. When you get back, even if you haven't done a ton of training and you thought you were going to, it's okay. Just gently get back into it when you go back home. I'd just say, more than anything, enjoy your time away. It's fine to have a goal of getting your dog to be okay when they're somewhere else, but it's also okay not to have that goal. Because living with separation anxiety is tough, and doing the training is tough. You don't need me to tell you that. And honestly, you and your dog do deserve a break. So don't be too hard on you or on him. All right. Thanks so much for listening. I look forward to catching you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Be Right Back Separation Anxiety podcast. If you want to find out more about how I can help you further, head over to julienaismith.com. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed listening today, I would love it if you would head over to wherever you listen to your podcasts and consider rating my show. Thanks so much. Good luck with that training, and bye for now.